My disk was full, so I was not allowing to record. Okay. So, as I mentioned, we are doing chapter number 3, and we did a very important verse in the previous class. I hope you all remember. Yagya Shishtasheena Santaha Muchyante Sarvakilbashe Bhunjate Te Tvagam Papa Ye Pachanti Atmakarnat. So, in the last couple of verses, we learned that this material nature, which is under the control of Supreme Lord Krishna, is providing us various necessities of life, isn't it? But we have been consuming it without paying anything in return. And Krishna called us what? Thieves. We have been stealing air, we've been stealing sunshine, we've been stealing food without really participating in the process of yajna. So we learned that the purpose of life is to get connected to the roots. Like the purpose of tree is to get connected with the land of the roots, to stay healthy, to stay green, isn't it? Similarly, the purpose of life of a soul is to get reconnected with the super soul, to stay healthy, to stay happy, peaceful. It is not easy, isn't it? You can see 99% population is not interested in someone called God. It's a godless society, isn't it? They're only interested in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, which are found in animals also. So nothing different. So Krishna is now teaching us, though it is difficult, but there is a beginning. We can go in steps. Gradually, one can become spiritual. Isn't it? Like, we cannot teach calculus to a nursery child, isn't it? So there is a process. He is first taught A for apple, B for boy, C for cat. And then gradually goes up. He is taught words, then he is taught sentences, then he is taught, how to make sentences. And finally, it comes to graduation, then post-graduation, PhD, isn't it? So based on his capacity to digest, he is given inputs to grow. Correct? Similarly, everybody doesn't have capacity to understand this subject matter called spirituality. One has to be in the state of sattva guna to understand spiritual subject matter. Otherwise, one cannot understand. So his consciousness has to be elevated, raised from the platform of Rajaguna, Tamoguna to the platform of Sattva-guna. Then he will start understanding who is Krishna, what is spiritual life, what is spiritual world, what is material nature, what is soul, what is super soul. So if somebody is drunkard and you start teaching Bhagavad Gita, he will not understand. Correct? Will you understand? No. He has to be given a bath to get all his hangover down, then he can understand. Similarly, the process suggested in Vedic culture, or according to Vedas, is first elevate your consciousness from the consciousness of animals to the consciousness of human beings. So they look like human beings, most of us. I'm sure all of us now at least understand we have come to the platform of being human being. But most in the society are still at the platform of animals. May not sound well, but that's a reality. Yeah, because like animals are busy only in eating, sleeping, they're also only busy eating, sleeping. Nothing beyond that. So, so the starting point, Krishna said, is called Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda is a part of Vedic literature which basically is meant for material enjoyment but using religion. It's called Karma Kanda. Okay? Like perform this yajna, you get a good wife. Perform this yajna, you get a good son. Perform this yajna, your business will flourish. Perform this yajna, you'll get a good job. Correct? So people get, but through a legal route, not illegally. Like you get, liquor on government-owned shops, legal route. You get liquor, but legally. After that, you've seen shops, authorized shops to give you liquor. Have you seen? Though liquor drinking is not good, but you can't stop it like that. If you stop, selling, they'll smuggle. Correct? They'll still find ways to drink liquor. So, government says, okay, let me at least not miss my revenue. So let me open a shop so that it is controlled. There is no smuggling. Similarly, it is like a carrot to an ass. Come and enjoy materially, but using legal route. So when somebody starts using the process of Vedas to enjoy materially, it is called Karma Kanda. The benefit is at least now he is showing some faith in the system made by Supreme Lord. So that is the benefit he gets. So he now is connected with the Supreme Lord somehow, though for material enjoyment. है ना, जैसे एक बच्चे को मेडिसिन देना है तो उसकी मम्मी क्या करती है, साथ में चॉकलेट देती है ना, पहले बोलती है चॉकलेट खाओ फिर दवाई खानी पड़ेगी, ठीक है। तो भगवान भी इज फॉलोइंग द सेम प्रोसेस, ही विल गिव यू चॉकलेट, मटेरियल एंजॉयमेंट, एंड देन ही विल गिव यू मेडिसिन. Okay, medicine will follow after this chocolate. So the chocolate is Karma Kanda. Okay, enjoy, but using some process given by the Supreme Lord. Because they follow the process given by Supreme Lord, they get connected somehow with the Vedic culture. Okay. And then gradually, person who is starting to follow Karma Kanda section of Vedas, he is gradually elevated to the level of Karma Yoga. Earlier he was enjoying, now he starts sharing the result of his karma with the Lord. He comes little up in the ladder. Because his faith is building up now. Okay, because of Supreme Lord, I'm getting, my wife, good sons, good business. His faith is building. And gradually he starts sharing, but you are giving so much, let me also give you something. Okay. So he'll give 5% of his salary to the temple for different spiritual activities. Okay. You have question, Anil Prabhu? Question? You're not audible? Am I audible? Am I audible or no? Okay. So Karma Yoga is basically when person starts, giving something in return in the service of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. It's called Sakama Karma Yoga, which means a lot of material desires, but at the same time, connecting. Yoga means connecting with the Lord through karma, through his activities. So whatever work he is doing, businessman, architect, or doctor, or engineer, whatever work he is doing, he continues to do that. But the result of that, he starts deploying in the service of the Supreme Lord. It's called Sakam Karma Yoga. Connecting with the Lord through his karma but still having material desires. Okay. And then comes, Nishkam, Karma Yoga, then Gyan Yoga. We discuss all of this. But starting point is Kanda. Okay. Now, in the last two verses, Krishna mentioned that if one is not able to understand me directly, he should at least start worshipping demigods, Devi Devta. Because they are the agents of Krishna, supplying so many things to us, air, water, food, light. So you should give something in return. And what is the return? Is yajna. Verse number 12, if you remember. Krishna tells that they will supply you everything you need to live materially happy, but you have to perform yajna. And if you don't perform yajna, you are like a thief. We discussed, like electricity comes to your house, every month you pay some bill, right? Yes or no? And if you don't pay a bill and continue to consume the light, you'll be called as a thief. Similarly, we are consuming sun's rays for different purposes. We get vitamin D, we get sun rays to dry our clothes, different purposes. We are consuming oxygen every moment without paying anything. So we are, a big timer thief, we discussed, not doing anything in return. And then Krishna gave another example of what? If you don't offer the food back to Krishna in the form of offering, bhoga, then we become sinful also. Not only thief, we become sinful also. Because while cooking food, you commit so many sins. We'll kill so many germs, so many bacteria, so many living entities we kill while cooking food. And we don't perform those panch yagya suggested by Vedas to get rid of all these sins. So it is very important to offer food to the Lord and then eat. Then it becomes karma free. One becomes free of sins. Why everybody, most of you are switched off in terms of your video? Please switch on your video. Unless you have a network problem. Yeah. Because I assume if video is off means you're distracted. You're doing something else, not focusing on Bhagavad Gita. And then Krishna taught basically, if you offer and eat, then not only you get rid of previous sinful reactions, but you also stop committing sinful action going forward. Correct? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Now in today's verse, Krishna will explain what is actual economics according to Bhagavad Gita. We only understand economics in terms of industrialization, a lot of factories, GDP, and Mukul Prabhu, please be attentive. A lot of currency here and there. Now let's understand what is real economy. See, we all have realized the current economy in terms of industrialization, a lot of factories, actually is making our life miserable, isn't it? The end result of industrialization is pollution, hectic lifestyle, no time to breathe, no time to eat, no time to talk to anyone, no time to relax, no time to spend time with the family and friends. Yes or no? And then after living a miserable life in this life, next life will live in hell terribly. So a miserable life followed by a terrible life. This is the result of industrialization, correct? Now Krishna will teach us what is actual economy. What is economy which makes life satisfied, contented, peaceful, and enough opportunity to exercise or work towards the goal of life. Lead a very nice spiritual life. With basically simple living, high thinking. That is the culture of our Vedic Sabhyata or Vedic Sanskriti. So very, very important, these two verses. Let's try to understand. Verse number 14. Okay. You can recite after me. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjaniyat anna sambhava yagnat bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjaniyad anna sambhava yagyat bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjaniyad anna sambhava yagna yagya bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava. Word by word meaning. Annad, from grains. Bhavanti, grow. Bhutani, the material bodies. Parjanayat, from rains. Anna, of food grains. Sambhava, production. Yagnat, from the performance of sacrifice. Bhavati, becomes possible. Parjanyaha, rains. Yagya, performance of yagya. Karma, prescribed duties. Samudbhava, born of. Translation purport by Divine Grace, Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Chakradhara Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All living bodies subsist on food grains, not on nuts and bolts. Okay? All material bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya or sacrifice. And yagya is born of prescribed duties. This is called cycle of sacrifice. How everything is happening. How do you get rains? How do you get grains? How do you actually survive? What is the basis for our survival? Yeah. What is yagya? What is prescribed duties? And this entire thing is called, we'll continue in the next verse also. Yes, we'll continue next verse also. So you can repeat after me. All living bodies, you need to repeat. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya or sacrifice. And yagya is born of prescribed duties. Okay. Purport. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, a great commentator on Bhagavad Gita, writes as follows. I will not read the Sanskrit one. The Supreme Lord, who is known as Yajna Purusha. So Krishna's another name is Yajna Purusha. Or Yajna also is called Krishna, another name of Vishnu or Krishna. Or the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all demigods. Okay? Who serve him as the different limbs of body, as different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varuna are appointed officers who manage material affairs, and the Vedas direct sacrifice to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, and water sufficiently to produce food grains. Okay. And when Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods, who are different limbs of the Lord, are also automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate need to worship the demigods. Okay. So here is being suggested that who is the Supreme Lord and what is the position of Supreme Lord and position of different demigods. Devi Devta. Okay. Different demigods are different limbs of Supreme Lord. Part and parcel of Supreme Lord. Okay. So Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Lord Ganesh, Durga, all of them are different limbs of the Supreme Lord. Okay. So Supreme Lord is like Prime Minister, and all of the demigods are like cabinet ministers, holding different portfolio. Somebody is responsible for rains, somebody is responsible for light, somebody is responsible for water, somebody is responsible for education. Yeah, education portfolio, finance portfolio, Kuber. Yeah, Mukul Prabhuji is equivalent. Right? So different portfolios managed by different demigods and finally reporting unto the Supreme Lord. So all of the demigods finally take shelter of Krishna. Once Narad Muni asked Brahmaji, Brahmaji, you are doing so much of creation, entire universe you create, all the planets you create. It appears that you are the supreme creator. But I also see you performing austerity, sitting and meditating on someone. Which brings a doubt, if you are supreme creator, whom are you meditating on? Natural question, no? You see, Lord Shiva also is chanting somebody's name. Brahma is also chanting somebody's name. But Krishna doesn't chant anyone's name. Have you seen Krishna sitting in meditation and chanting somebody's name? No. So Narad Muni asked, you look like supreme creator, but whom you are meditating on? So Brahmaji said, yes, I look like, but I am not the supreme creator. I am secondary creator. I am not prime creator. Right? So somebody has made bricks, sand, cement. I am only using all of them and creating building. Okay? I am not the one who creates all these elements. All the elements like Panch Mahabhut, working senses, knowledge acquiring senses, subtle body, they're all made by Krishna. I'm just using all of them to make these planets, this building, 14-floor building, 14 planets. So I'm only a secondary creator, I'm a primary creator. Brahmaji accepts this. Which means what? Brahmaji is a servant of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. He is not the whole and soul creator of this universe. Similarly, once there was a demon called Vritasur. So he pleased Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva asked him, okay, you ask something, benediction. Kya vardhan chahiye? So Vritasur said, give me benediction that मैं किसी के ऊपर भी हाथ रखूं, किसी के सर पे हाथ रखूं तो उसी वक्त खत्म हो जाए. Lord Shiva said, what are you asking? This is the nature of Tamoguni people. They will please demigod, they'll ask something obnoxious, like Hiranyakashipu asked, Ravana asked. So they will please demigod, they'll pay the price and they'll say, give me liquor, give me a gun, I want to shoot somebody. These are the kind of benedictions they ask. They will make atom bomb so that we can kill in masses, nuclear bomb, kill in masses. So they are big scientists, but they are Tamoguni people. Their mind is destructive. How to destroy? Brahmaji is so much of hard work creating, and these people are destroying everything. Isn't it? So Lord Shiva says, okay, tathastu, you paid the price, I have to give you. You pleased me, I have to please you. Okay, I am feeling very uncomfortable with half of the videos off. Ishita Mataji, Varun Prabhu, Pallavi Mataji, Mamta Mataji, Reena Mataji, कृपया वीडियो ऑन कीजिए. चांदनी माताजी, पूजा माताजी. Okay, thank you. So he said tathastu. So Vritasur said, let me try it. It works or not. And he wanted to put his hand on the head of Lord Shiva only. And he started running after Shiva to try whether it works or not. Let me try, put my hand on the head of Lord Shiva. Let me see he is destroyed or not. So Lord Shiva is running, and behind who is running? Vritasur is running. And the Lord Shiva remembered Krishna for help to protect, himself. And then Krishna came in the form of a small boy. He came in front of Vritasur. He said, what are you doing? He said, he gave me benediction. I want to try. Works or not? So बोलते किसकी बात पे विश्वास कर रहे हो? There is no power in the words of Lord Shiva anymore. So he bewildered. Krishna can bewilder anyone. No, he bewildered Vritasur. He said, you want to try it? Try on your head. Let me tell you, it will not work at all. Put it in your head. अपने सर पे रख के रखो, बिल्कुल काम नहीं करेगा. And Vritasur got bewildered and he put his hand on his own head and got destroyed. Yeah. So Shiva also had to take shelter of Krishna for protection. Shiva Viranchi Nutam Sharanyam. Shiva, Brahma, everybody takes shelter of Krishna. So it is mentioned, if you please Krishna, you will end up pleasing every demigod. You don't have to worship them separately. Krishna will explain in detail in 12th chapter about this. It's like watering the root. If you water the root of a tree, you don't have to water every leaf. You don't have to water every flower, every fruit on the tree. Tree is nourished simply by watering the root of the tree. Similarly, Krishna is the root of this entire tree. If you water Krishna, every demigod becomes happy. Okay, Varun Prabhu. Right, so this is being explained. And different demigods have different responsibilities. When Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods who are different limbs of the Lord are also automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate need to worship the demigods. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat. See, though different elements are given by different demigods, like when you cook food, you need vegetables, right? You need grains, which are, born out of rains given by Indra. So if you are cooking food which is made out of many elements given by different demigods, but if you offer this food to Krishna, it means every demigod is pleased. You don't have to please them individually. Okay? You don't have to please them individually. That's what Prabhupada is trying to tell us. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, this is very important, listen carefully. By such action, not only are past sinful reactions in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized to all contamination of material nature. When there is epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects a person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to the Lord Vishnu and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to material affection or attraction. And one who is accustomed to this practice is called a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all reactions of past material infections which are impediments to the progress of self-realization. On the other hand, one who does not do so continues to increase the volume of sinful actions, and this prepares the next body to resemble hawks and dogs, to suffer the resultant action or reactions of all the sins. The material world is full of contaminations, and one who is immunized by accepting prasadam of the Lord is saved from the attack, whereas one who does not do so becomes subject to contamination. So the glory of prasadam being explained by Prabhupada here. This prasadam, though look very simple, is very glorious. Two benefits of prasadam. One, you get rid of past sinful reactions. Whatever sinful actions you have committed in past, many lifetimes, you get rid of all those sinful reactions. Second, it provides immunity in the body against material infections in the environment. Like, a child is born, he is given many injections in the beginning, correct? बच्चे को इंजेक्शन देते हैं, vaccination schedule you follow. After 7 days, after 10 days, after 15 days, after 6 months, after 1 year. Correct? Why? So that the child is protected from external infection. Correct? Mukesh Prabhu joined for the first time. Correct? A child is protected from external infection by giving him vaccination. Similarly, prasadam is like that vaccination which generates immunity in the body against material infection in the environment. We are in material world, it is full of contamination. Full of contamination. So this prasadam, when goes inside, builds immunity not to get attracted by material allurements, material attraction. This is the power of prasadam. Okay? So he's saying one who eats only Krishna prasadam, he is devotee. He is declared devotee. I will not eat anything if it is not offered to Krishna. I will not go and eat in 5-star, even though maybe 5-course dinner, if it is not offered. I will not do parties, though it may be very, delicious, rasgulla, rasmalai and all that. But I will not eat. Why? For this 5 minutes of joy, I may have to suffer 5 lifetimes. It's not a good deal. A devotee thinks like this. If I eat this rasgulla, it'll give me 2 minutes of joy. Correct? But somebody who made this rasgulla, he would have committed so much of sinful action, and I have to suffer that. Maybe 5 lifetimes, maybe 10 lifetimes. Not a good deal. So let me renounce these 2 minutes of enjoyment and let me protect myself from sinful reactions. देखो किसी चीज को छोड़ना हो ना बड़ा मुश्किल है, But when you think about what will you get in return, it becomes easy. Right? Think about क्या मिलने वाला है. That is our material nature. We always think about मिलना, return में क्या मिलने वाला है. So think about what will you get in return, then it is very easy. Okay, so devotee of the Lord do not eat anything if it is not homemade and not offered to the Lord. Just imagine we eat so much of stuff outside. सड़क पे कहीं खड़े जाते हैं. Who eats on the roads? Hogs and dogs. Correct? No. Not civilized people. But we'll stand anywhere on the road and start eating golgappa and this and that. And without realizing how much of sinful reactions we'll incur out of this. Just for 2 minutes of joy, 2 minutes of taste, that's it. We pay a huge price. So when we start chanting the holy name, when we start reading, right, when we start eating prasadam, then Krishna gives us immunity, strength inside to resist such, temporary pleasures, which are very, very harmful. Like आपको मान लो बुखार है और सामने आइसक्रीम आ गई. You have a choice to eat, not to eat. Will you eat? If you're intelligent, you will not eat because you know what is the implication, what is the reaction. Temperature बढ़ जाएगा. If you're not intelligent, you will end up eating for 2 minutes joy and then 5 दिन और बैठ के ऊपर. है ना? So that 2 minutes of joy versus 5 days more on the bed, which is a better option? To leave or to eat? To leave. This is called austerity. इसी को तपस्या कहते हैं. For a bigger benefit, let me renounce 2 minutes of joy. Nothing wrong. Instead of suffer, for example, somebody who's eating non-vegetarian, he's eating one chicken, for example. Chicken gives him joy for how many minutes? 5 minutes? Correct? 10 minutes. But he has to suffer one lifetime because he killed one chicken. Chicken has to kill him in reaction. So 5 minutes of joy is equal to one lifetime of misery. Thinking this, we should renounce. अरे नहीं चाहिए 5 मिनट का कोई आनंद. एक जन्म सफर करना पड़ेगा. So this is called karma with knowledge, with detachment, and this becomes karma yoga. When you do karma with detachment and with knowledge, it becomes karma yoga. Oh, let me eat only after offering. Let me not eat anything. And it brings a lot of benefits. Your health becomes better because you have regulated eating, correct? If you eat on time because you're offering to the Lord, now you need to not munching every time something spoils stomach and creates so many other diseases. So health is also under control, material health and spiritual health is also under control. If you offer the food to the Lord and eat. Okay, that's the point he's making. And one who does not do it, Prabhupada is telling, then his next life is like hogs and dogs. Next life is so much of suffering. Who likes hogs and dogs? Anyone here? Obnoxious, isn't it? So this knowledge is precious. What we understand in Bhagavad Gita, what we learn from Bhagavad Gita is something very special. It is not taught in our schools and colleges, unfortunately. This is the first thing to be taught to a child when he comes to the school, correct? First thing to be taught, so that he does not accumulate sinful reaction from this early age. Prabhupada is saying, if you don't do this, you're simply accumulating the sinful reactions, nothing else. Simply accumulating. Make sense? Mukesh Prabhu is scared. अरे आज मेरा पहले ही क्लास है और क्या क्या सुनने को मिल रहा है. Okay, next. Okay, now Prabhupada is going to talk about this cycle of sacrifice. Food grains or vegetables are factually eatables. The human beings eats different kinds of food grains, vegetables, fruits, etc. And the animals eat the refuse of food grains and vegetables. grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetation in order to eat the animals. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of field and not on the production of big factories. We have to depend upon production of grains, not on the production of big factories. The field production is due to sufficient rain from sky, and such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra, sun, moon, etc. And they're all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. So, this entire scarcity we find in this material world is only due to because we are not performing sacrifices, we are performing yajna. That's why sometimes we have short of rain, sometimes we are short of grains. You know? Why? We are not performing. We've forgotten this our duty of performing yajna. That is a law of nature. Yajna, especially the Sankirtan yajna, prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from the scarcity of food supply. Okay. So, this very first sentence, Annad Bhavanti Bhutani. This material body consists of grains. So our survival is dependent on grains, not factory products, but on field products, which is given by nature. Correct? Yes or no? Do you all agree? See, what is the purpose of life? Purpose of life is to lead a spiritual life, to meet the end goal of life, correct? Self-realization. But that is only possible when you lead a simple sattvic life. Only in Sattva-guna one can lead a spiritual life, not in Rajoguna, Tamoguna. And these factories, industries make a life full of mode of ignorance and mode of passion. Correct? You compare a village and let's say Bombay, a metro. What is the difference between a city and a village? Please tell me. Just tell me the difference between say Bombay and a small village in Rajasthan. What are the differences? Okay, let me. Now you can unmute yourself and speak. Please, one by one. It is not difficult.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I think the main difference between the small towns and big metro cities is the number of facilities is provided to us in terms of, let's say, good roads, which adds to the quality of life. Hospitals.
So, life, according to you, in cities better than villages.
Yes.
Okay. Any other view? Thank you, Mataji. Chandni Mataji.
More populated, more polluted, and because they are bigger, so the destruction level is also bigger.
Okay, so cities are more polluted. You don't have fresh air to breathe. Crowded, you normally get stuck in jams and spend hours and hours on the road. Yes. Okay, then, yes, Sudipti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
In villages, if we culturally, if we taken, the culturally people are more cultured, and in cities, if we see that they are culturally cultured, but not in that way. I'm not.
They are superficially cultured.
Yes, superficially
And
cultured.
really cultured.
Yes.
Okay.
And
In city, you don't even know who your neighbor is. पता आपको पता नहीं होता पड़ोस में कौन रहता है.
exactly, that the bond is not there. And if politically, if we are seeing that politically they are more pronounced in cities, and they are the simple living in villages.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Tushya beta.
In cities there is more amusement. Every time, everywhere there is something to amuse and distract and grab your attention for long. But in villages there are less things. That's why people focus more on their living rather than seeing around.
So in cities, people are more distracted because so many avenues to distract. But in villages, people less distracted. Okay, Pooja Mataji.
Babuji. In cities, the more we have a high rising building, people minds are also high rising. The way they are developing their infrastructure and technology, so they are living there. So the more of that, and I believe the healthy and rooted life is in the villages and small cities and the small areas where fresh air and fresh things. So I guess that I believe the more quality life is in, as everybody said it, more affection, more values are there in a small city, in a small town. And people are growing and thinking their mind, they are rising the building, so they are also in the air, they are not rooted and grounded.
Only in there. Thank you, Mataji. Mamta Mataji.
Prabhuji, there is the huge difference of peace, Prabhuji. Cities are having lot of commotion, Prabhuji, and while the villages are very peaceful and they are very, the life is not moving very fast, Prabhuji, and whatever food or everything that you get is very pure out over there and directly available, and they are happy with what they have. They are contented with what they have.
They're satisfied.
That is the biggest thing about the villages. And a village is self-sufficient, Prabhuji. It doesn't require anything from outside. While
Very good.
industries require everything from outside, Prabhuji. Even the raw material which is available has to be coming from the villages.
Yes.
The cities are incomplete without a village, but
Thank
a
you,
village
Mataji.
is complete without the
In
industries
itself.
also.
Yes, very good point.
Yes.
Thank you. So Prabhupada will say, if you have piece of land, few cows, and Krishna, bas, sufficient to live a very happy and peaceful life. Little bit of land, couple of cows, and Krishna, you can lead a sufficient life. Very peaceful, satisfied life. It is said Krishna made villages and man made cities. Krishna himself was a villager, cowherd boy. Isn't it? Mukesh Prabhuji wants to say something.
जय श्री कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
Yes, Prabhu, बोलिए।
ममता जी ने सही बोला। हाँ, ममता जी ने बिल्कुल सही एक्सप्लेन किया, बट बस शॉर्ट में बोलना था, गांव का जो लाइफ है वो पूरा नेचुरल है, और बॉम्बे का जो मतलब सिटी का कोई भी वो पूरा आर्टिफिशियल लाइफ है पूरा।
Yes. So I have lived in Bombay for quite some time, maybe 10-15 years. And now I hate going back to Bombay. According to me, living in Bombay is a big punishment. Is a big punishment. Cities are in mode of ignorance and mode of passion. Everybody is running. Yes or no? Everybody is running. In train, holding this, in bus, in car, standing on the road, on bikes. Bus. वो तो माताजी नया माताजी बोलते totally agree. She is in Bombay. And village life is peaceful. See, a farmer works only 4 months in a year. पता है आपको? Only 4 months. And enjoys throughout the year. A highly qualified city resident works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 365 days a year, and struggle to get 2 days of holiday to go out to a village and enjoy. Correct? Every weekend, a city person looks for time to go to some nearby forest area, village area to relax. Yes or no? बॉम्बे वाले कहाँ भागते हैं? कहाँ भागते हैं बॉम्बे वाले? हैं लोनावला. So this, so-called modern life industrialization is not required. Is only making one struggle throughout his life with no time for self-realization, which is the purpose of life. So it's a purposeless life. So you lead a purposeless, miserable life, and because you commit so many sinful actions in this kind of lifestyle, your next life is also terrible. So you live a miserable life to prepare for a terrible life. What a economic discipline. Is it good economy? You don't live current life peacefully and end up screwing up, messing up next life also. On the other hand, Vedic life is very peaceful, simple, satisfied current life with enough time for self-realization, and you make up your next lives also. This is called simple living, high thinking. But now, simply living, hardly thinking. No one is thinking, just living. So we should not be allured by this glamour of city. This is Maya, fully, like Putana came, no? Putana came fully decorated to kill Krishna. She was looking like some goddess. She was looking like Lakshmi, wearing ornaments, very moving like a, very civilized lady. And even Yashoda got bewildered. I mean, of course, through Yoga Maya, not Mahamaya. And she allowed this Putana to lift Krishna and, make him drink her milk from her breast. See, this is what is happening with us. There is all Putana all around and you're getting attracted, to the glamour of this material world. Like, one is getting attracted to a chicken piece and ends up screwing one life. See, little bit of attraction and you end up screwing up one lifetime. Similarly, in this material world, if you are not Krishna conscious, bas khatam. If you are not self-realized, you're not devotee, gone. This life is gone and the next life is also gone. Okay. So the real economy is this. What? Anna bhavati bhutani. This body subsists on grains. And then Krishna says, Parjaniyad anna sambhava, and this grain subsists on rains. Without rains, you cannot get grains. And how do you get rains? Yajna bhavati parjanyo. From yajna or sacrifice, you get rains. And how do you get, yajna? By performing our prescribed duties, based on our varnashram and based on our, our eternal prescribed duty to serve Krishna. These are the best forms of yajna. Prabhupada ended with, if you simply perform Sankirtan yajna, which is the yajna to satisfy Krishna, then all your yajnas are also done simultaneously. Once Prabhupada went to Hyderabad, I mentioned earlier also, there was no rain for a long time. And Prabhupada had a big pandal program, and they were chanting, doing kirtan for hours and hours. And when they were leaving, it rained. Why? Because Prabhupada performed Sankirtan Yajna for many days together, and he brought rain in that city, which was dry for a long time. Okay, if any village, town is not having rain, they should simply chant the holy name and perform Sankirtan Yajna. That's it. Nothing else to be done. Okay. So Prabhupada had a vision of farm communities to lead a simple Vedic Sattvic life. When we were in Indonesia, there's a place called as Gita Nagari. Gita Nagari. It is a small village of almost that time, many years back, 35 families staying together in a forest. In the center, there is a temple, and around the temple, everybody has his house, right? And they are completely dependent on natural products. Even no electricity in that village. Can you imagine? There's one socket point in the temple to charge mobile if some guest comes. Only for that purpose. Otherwise, there is no electricity. Every house has a well. Every house has a well in the house. And every morning they all of them take the deities from temple, go to the forest doing kirtan. In the evening, deities go from house to house. And every householder will come and perform worship of the deities and give whatever they grow, vegetables, fruits, to the deities. And deities will go every house, every day. And there's a small gurukul to teach their children. Fully dependent, on Krishna and on nature. Nothing else. No factory. Prabhupada once was in Vrindavan. And when he was leaving Vrindavan, he saw many factories are coming up in Vrindavan. He said, if there's a famine, kahin akal ho gaya, so people will eat nut bolts or what? They still need grains. You can't survive on nuts bolts. Correct? You still need grains to survive. Anna, dhoti, bhutan, you just read. So this modern civilization is, destroying, what do you call, the Vedic culture. Destroyed already. What destroying? Already destroyed. So the purpose is to lead a simple Vedic Sattvic life and pursue spirituality, the goal of life. If you can't lead a simple life, forget about spiritual life. Why many of us are struggling? Many of us claim we don't have time. Correct? टाइम ही नहीं है. सुबह 5 से रात को 10 बजे तक काम करते हैं हम लोग लैपटॉप पे, कंप्यूटर के ऊपर. Where is the time to chant? That's what Prabhupada said. Have a piece of land, have few cows, grow what you need, and simply chant. It's a very happy, peaceful, satisfied life. That's why Prabhupada encouraged, devotees to develop farm communities. Stay together, help each other, cooperate with each other, and simply chant the holy name together, which is the Yug Dharma of Kali Yuga. I wish people like Pradeep Prabhu take initiative and, create such farm communities around Udaipur. We'll also shift there. How many of you would like to join in case we have some concept like this? Farm community. But finance wala to join nahi kar rahe. Somebody who has to sponsor money is not joining. Mukul Prabhu now is raising hand. Okay, so this is the best form of life. Simple but high thinking. High thinking means spiritual life. Because only intelligent people pursue spiritual life, not less intelligent people. Okay. So I have one more verse to do, but only 12 minutes left. So we'll continue in the next session. So next 10-12 minutes, we'll have good questions. You should ask questions. Never keep doubts, especially with respect to spiritual life within you. I'll tell you one story. There was one, hunter. He went to a jungle to hunt. And he targeted one animal, which is one bird, which is not supposed to be killed legally. But he still took a chance and, shot that bird. The bird was half dead, and then he saw some inspector coming. So what he did was he took the bird, which is half dead, inside his jacket, half alive. And then inspector came, so he's trying to hide the bird. And the bird, which is half dead, is eating his flesh inside. But he can't take it out. Inspector is standing. And after some time, when inspector went, he also fell down because that bird had eaten enough flesh inside. So this half dead bird is like a doubt within us. If you don't kill this doubt will kill us. Will kill our spiritual life. So any doubt with respect to spiritual life, you should get it clarified immediately. Else your faith will not increase. Will kill our spiritual life. So never keep any doubt in your mind. Yes, Anil Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
We were reading for this Karam Kanda and Karam Yoga.
Karam Kanda.
Yeah. So how Karam Kanda became Karam Yoga? Please briefly explain again, Prabhuji.
So what happens is, when somebody is enjoying materially, right, at one point in time he realizes that this is not going to give me permanent joy. All of us, and many of us have, please keep yourself muted. There's some sound coming from some behind. All of us have realized, though we have a lot of resources at our disposal to enjoy, but still we are not able to enjoy. You see many wealthy people, rich people, they are also struggling, they are also depressed, they are also, not happy. So at one point in time, you realize that material enjoyment gives only depression towards the end, only frustration. And when one is frustrated enough, he takes shelter of Krishna. Then he comes to the level of Karma Yoga. I narrated one story, if you remember. There was one businessman, he was an atheist. But his business was not doing well. So somebody suggested him, go and talk to some Brahman, ask him, what you should do to, correct your business. So he went and, the Brahman told him to do some yagya and things will be all right. Do some Mahamrityunjay mantra or do something and things will be all right. So he did. He desperately wanted something to happen with his business. And when he saw by performing yagya, business was doing very well, he developed faith in Karam Kanda. Then after some time he went to Brahman, said, I want to get married, please help me get good girl. He said, no problem. Pay this price, you'll get good girl. Perform this yagya. So he performed, he got girl also. And now sometime he again went, now I need a son. Tell me, what do I do? He said, okay, perform this yagya, you'll get a son. So then he got business corrected, he got wife, he got son. Right? Very happy, peaceful. And then one day his wife and children were going for some marriage and they met with an accident and died on the spot. Then he realized the nature of material joy. It can go away any moment. Correct? It is not permanent. And when one goes through this phase of life, he develops detachment from this material world. He develops vairagya. Like when somebody goes to Shamshan, he sees bodies burning, he develops vairagya. Arey, aise hi hona mere saath, to main kyun itni mehnat kar raha hu? है ना? This is called Shamshan Vairagya. It is momentary, but he develops detachment. So when one goes through a difficult time in his life, he develops detachment and then elevates, then takes shelter of the Supreme Lord. He comes to the platform of Karma Yoga. So we don't have to go through that phase of life because we have understood that Bhakti Yoga is the most supreme. So we don't have to go through this. Simply start serving Krishna. You raise your consciousness to the level of Bhakti Yoga. So one doesn't have to go through all of this long route. Okay. Simply engage all your senses in service and they'll get purified of all material desires very soon. Yes, Sudipti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
You told us regarding a family that moved to forest, and the level of their surrenders towards Krishna. So how we should develop that sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja?
So, as Prabhupada said, Krishna said in this chapter that our heart is not yet pure. Correct? Do you agree? Lot of material desires. So Krishna is suggesting you should not renounce karma and go to the forest now. Okay? You purify your heart first and then go to forest. Because if you go to forest with impure heart, with lot of material desires, after 1 month you say, "No, ये मन नहीं लग रहा है अभी, चलो वापस चलते हैं, उदयपुर अच्छा था." Then you come back to Udaipur. And then you lose faith also in the spiritual life. Correct? अरे कुछ नहीं, बेकार है इसे. मैं गई वहां पर कुछ लगा ही नहीं. So Krishna is saying, don't renounce unless the heart is purified, unless heart is purified of all material desires. And hence he is saying this Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is what? Perform your prescribed duty. Your doctor, remain doctor. Engineer, remain engineer. Keep doing, but perform those karmas with knowledge and detachment. So when you perform karma with knowledge, with detachment, then you gradually purify your heart. Okay? And when it is completely purified by doing this again and again, it means what? Live your material life, but live your spiritual life also very sincerely. And gradually, spiritual life component will keep increasing. One point in time, you think, now I don't have material desires, I can renounce. Then you can go to the forest. But not immaturely. Okay? Immature renunciation, Prabhupada, Sir Krishna said, in this chapter, previous chapter, is this chapter. He is only a pretender. Mithya. Mithya sannyasi. You were not there, I think, when we did this verse. So when somebody renounces without going through the process of purification, then he is only pretending. Externally he is renounced, internally he is attached. Okay? So we have to first purify our heart. Okay? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? No one? Yes, Vinita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
My question is related to Mahamantra. Is it Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama or Hare Ram? Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare.
But some people pronounce Rama while they're chanting continuously. Okay, no problem.
I have heard in kirtans and songs, they say Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Okay. Not a problem. Not
Thank
a problem. Thank you. Yes, Daya Mataji.
प्रणाम प्रभु जी।
प्रणाम माताजी।
हाँ, मेरा प्रश्न जो